Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
We all know Michael Dickson has a big leg, but we all know Michael Dickson has some big other things now.
And Brandan Schultz.
We just need somebody on the ground with eyes to track Schotty's hat wearing throughout the week.
Go Hawks!
This is episode 225 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, joined by my good buddy, Montana Seahawker Adam Emmert.
How are you on this incredibly soggy Montana day, Mr. Schultz?
It's been a busy week, man. Today feels good, being able to sit down and actually have time to record a show after Halloween and after just a busy work week. Some people don't necessarily realize we have other stuff that goes on in personal lives too, and sometimes we get shows out late. It
got a little crazy this week. I'm not going to lie. We were going to really gun for yesterday to get it done. But then
after gunning for Wednesday,
yeah, but basically then my daughter just was like, no, you got like a million things to do for me today. Yeah. You get to ride me all over hell and gone. So that was shot right there.
But, we have Halloween out of the way. You have your day out of the way. I have parent-teacher conferences out of the way. And now we get to talk about Seahawks football.
That's exactly right. Stinking kids getting in the way of Hawk Talk. But an exciting week to do it because coming off the electrifying Detroit game, which I think everybody should still be very fired up about. Yeah. And then now entering the meat of the schedule. And first up, the Los Angeles Chargers. And I can't believe I just got that right on the first try. It might be the only time. I'm just saying in advance, if I say San Diego Chargers at least a dozen times in this podcast, don't write a comment because I don't care. It's almost impossible.
I was just reading down through my notes to kind of announce what we're going to talk about. And no lie, I had it typed in my notes, San Diego.
There you go.
So
it's just been my entire life, the San Diego Chargers. It's tough to, Los Angeles Chargers. It just doesn't feel good.
No, it feels strange.
My tongue revolts halfway through it, I think.
So we will talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll talk about Michael Dickson being named Special Teams Player of the Week. Talk a little bit of our Seahawks offensive line and get to some do better and better at life.
Heck yeah, man. It's going to be a full show.
And starting out with a little bit of news. I know some people were watching the trade deadline. There were a few people that moved, including former Seahawks wide receiver Golden Tate of the Lions that we just beat. He goes to Philadelphia. And the Seahawks make a wide receiver move of their own, trading Brandon Marshall for an empty roster spot.
It's something like that. It's amazing that they found a willing trade partner. No, Brandon Marshall released, and really to nobody's surprise at this point in the season, after Doug Baldwin has come back and shown that he can be on the field reliably, and then with the emergence of David Moore, and then Jerron Brown being just a better player right now, especially in the running game, there just came a point with the drops and those sort of things that didn't make sense to have him on the roster. There's some other areas on the team they'd like to shore up. Pete mentioned special teams being one specifically. So Brandon needed to go, and they left the door open for him to come back if it does happen to work out.
Sure, if there's an injury or they just happen to need another receiver going down the road. A little bit surprising just in the sense that here's a veteran who, when you're on a veteran contract, he's still going to get paid by the Seahawks for the rest of the year. So
yeah, don't cry for Brandon Marshall. No. He's still doing okay.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He's still getting paid and everything. Whereas, some of the rookies, that's not necessarily the case. So there is benefit of being a veteran in the league. And it also, there's no impact to the salary cap by cutting him either.
Yeah, this was clearly just for, like you said, a roster spot.
Roster spot, special teams. They bring up Malik Turner. And as I'm going down the Seahawks list of roster numbers, I see Malik Turner at number 8. Number 8.
As in he's wearing number 8?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know if when you went down, if it was ranked in some way or if it was by position or I didn't know.
No, by the actual number 8.
Okay.
If you're,
are you having a problem with this? Is this a Hasselback issue for you?
Yeah. You know how sensitive I am about numbers and especially.
Yeah, you gotta let that go, bud.
Well, he has to change it, right? Because receivers have to wear 10 to 19 or 80 to 89. Isn't that the rule?
I thought that was the rule. Apparently, maybe not. I don't know. I guess the idea is that he probably isn't going to see the field. I don't know. They can wear single digits in preseason. I know that.
Well, maybe that's what carried it over. Maybe it's from the preseason. Let me check because
wow, it's important news. What number Malik Turner is not going to wear?
They have changed his number. Now he's wearing 17. My other least favorite number for a receiver.
Is this because of Dave Craig?
Yes.
All right, let me ask you a quick question.
Wide receivers should not be wearing numbers of legendary Seahawks quarterbacks.
What, you would rather have a quarterback wear it?
No.
Oh, okay. See, neither one of these guys, look, Dave Craig nor Matt Hasselbeck, bless both of their hearts and guys that are near and dear to me as well, did not play well enough to have their numbers retired. And so therefore they're not retired, which means anybody that plays an appropriate position to wear those numbers can. They can do it.
I don't like seeing dudes in 24. I don't like seeing them in 79 for Jacob Green. Red Bryant was an exception because it's what's his father-in-law. So, that's one thing. And those are all the ones that are coming to mind right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't make no never mind to me. Let's just put it to you that way.
All right.
I'd rather if the guy can play or not play. That's what I want to know. I'm not too bothered, by what number he's wearing. I mean, because I don't know if you know this, but there's only, 99 numbers available for guys to wear. Unless you count 00, then there's 100. And there's going to be more than 100 guys that play for your organization during the life of the organization. There's going to have to be some recycling of the numbers.
You know who could wear number 8 and I'd be okay with it?
I don't know.
Michael Dickson, special teams player of the week for the NFC.
No, Michael Dickson is making a name for himself with those large cojones with the number 4 all on his own. He's making a name for himself.
Are you referencing his new Big Balls nickname?
Which apparently is fake.
No. See, it's interesting. There's some controversy around this, and I think I figured it out.
Okay.
Because after the game, Matt Calkins, a Seattle Times reporter, he said that he has it on tape. And I think what happened was, he tweeted it out and it got posted in Bleacher Report. Michael Dickson saw this, and the way it was worded in Bleacher Report made it sound like it was Michael Dickson giving himself the nickname as opposed to the teammates giving him the nickname. And so that's why he tweeted out that, I don't know where this came from, whatever. And so that's how it got twisted. And it turns out that, in fact, his teammates did give him that nickname. He recognized it. And so now he's Big Balls Dickson.
Say it, Brandon. Say the nickname.
I did.
What is it?
Big Balls Dickson.
Okay. It felt like you were dancing around it. I just wanted to make you say it.
I said it twice now. You were the one that was dancing around it.
No, I was just using different phraseology to try to keep it interesting. But Big Balls Dickson. Yeah. Well, so here's my thought. Okay, if you got it on tape, where's the tape?
It's been played.
Have you heard it?
Yeah,
I wanted to hear the audio of it.
They bleeped it out on 710 ESPN because apparently you can't say big and the word balls in the same sentence.
Well, guess what? You know what we can do on this podcast? Big balls. we can do it. It's really fun. Say it with me. Say it in your car right now as you're driving down the road.
Yeah.
Just yell it out. Big balls. I'm going to look at you weird, but you'll feel good.
You'll feel good.
Yeah.
After the play this last weekend, we talked a little bit about it in the postgame show, and some of the tweets that I read coming out of the press conference made it sound like he had the option to run in that situation. But no, Pete Carroll told him a couple weeks ago that he should look for opportunities. But this particular situation wasn't what Pete Carroll had in mind as far as taking it out of the end zone and trying to he was supposed to take a safety.
Correct. That was the idea. And I think, look, give Michael Dickson credit for being like, well, Pete told me I could run it at some point.
Yeah.
Like that I have to do it. And even though it was in jest, like he looked at it, he's like, I got this. And so he went for it. And then he had a card in his back pocket to play and be like, look, Pete, you told me. Like, even if Pete was joking, like, hey, you told me. So, he had an excuse. I like it.
And that's exactly what he did.
And we know that Michael Dickson has a big leg, but he also can kick it directionally as well as anybody. And he's going to run around. They might be taking the safety, although he could probably run. And he does! Michael Dickson picks up a first down! Are you kidding me? Pete Carroll told him run around, wind down some clock, And if you don't see anything, probably get out of the back of the end zone. We'll take the safety. He had the entire right side of the field open, and Michael Dickson takes it and runs for a first down. They didn't teach him that in Australian rules football, I guarantee you.
Two of my favorite things from that call. He starts out saying that we all know Michael Dickson has a big leg. Well, we all know Michael Dickson has some big other things now. We know that. And then the second thing is the Wyman chuckles are back.
We got the Wyman chuckle in there. I counted them. We have 3 replays from the Detroit game with Wyman chuckles.
It just makes me happy. I don't know why. I can't explain it. But just kind of his incredulous laugh, like, oh, I can't believe he's doing that.
So
great.
Pete Carroll, he obviously didn't tell him to take the run there, but he was supposed to take the safety. It turns into an incredible play, and you saw how fired up Coach Carroll was on the sideline. You saw how excited all the players were on the sideline. And the reason why Pete Carroll wasn't necessarily mad in that situation, well, you can't be because it was an awesome play. But it's interesting to listen to him talk about where his trust in giving players a certain sense of leeway, especially for some of the top players, where that comes from.
When I was growing up, I grew up watching Willie Mays play baseball. And if you guys ever had a chance to see what he was like, I watched him through most of his career, all of his career in San Francisco. And the guy always played with the sense that he was looking to do something special if you gave him half an opportunity. And lots of times he just created it. I grew up thinking that's the way you should play. I mean, he was my hero. He was everything to me when I was a kid. And that's the kind of play he would make. He'd see a situation and he'd do something nobody'd ever think you could possibly pull off, and he would. And he didn't always do it, but he did it enough where he was all time, So, as crazy as that connection sounds, I think I've always thought that way, and I've always felt like that's the way you should play the game and go for it and see if you can make stuff happen. And that's why I've always, in my coach, I think that way. I've always encouraged the guys that I coach to look for those kinds of opportunities and not be afraid of what they're going to do wrong and the mistakes that they're going to make. There's always a line to be drawn, and there's certain guys you don't let have that kind of freedom. And I said something to Mike a couple weeks ago about it, and so the fact that he could put that together and utilize it at a time like that and make a play like that just shows you the kind of athlete and the kind of competitor he is. Had you not given him that chance, he might not have done that.
Well, I never once thought to myself as I've watched the Michael Dickson replays or when I watched it live, how very Mazian of him. Willie Mays was not the first guy that came to mind. Not the first connection
that you make with Michael Dickson?
No, so that it's a little obscure, and I can understand his mentality and where it's coming from. But it was interesting that as a rookie, and maybe this is a little bit of coming from Australia and just not having been around football his whole life and everything, that maybe he didn't know the full extent of the risk he was taking. So he was just like, yeah, screw it, I'm doing it.
Well, he said in an interview afterward that he wasn't even sure how many yards that he had to get, but he did know when he passed the first down marker.
Right, it was over there.
He knew that he was going to have to take a hit to get it too.
The funny thing that's been kind of invoked with this play is almost like how it was game saving, or something along those lines, and well, not really. I mean, the Seahawks were still winning by 2 touchdowns, and you know what I mean. Yeah. It wasn't like Jermaine Kearse catching that ball in the Super Bowl before the play that shall not be talked about. That's one of those plays that you look back on and go, wow, that's totally a game changer.
I think it's just when a punter makes a play. You remember him because you remember John Ryan, throwing the touchdown pass to Gary Gilliam. You remember John Ryan, doing the face plant, and that was coming up short. And then there was the other one where John Ryan ran it and got pummeled.
Well, and the best part is that fellow punters get fired up about punters.
Former Colts punter Pat McAfee fired up.
Detroit can't help it. They start to get some momentum. They got the Seahawks backed up. And what does the Aussie bomber Michael Dickson do? You see, let's break this down real quick, all right? So you got 8 men in the box because the gunners are singled out here. You see, single. So you got 8 people in here. They all appear as if they're going for the block. Because if you get a block right here, you steal some points. Good field position, put pressure on Dickson. Backed up, they're on the 3-yard line, it appears. Normal box is 14 yards. Simple math there, 3 plus the 10-yard end zone. It's a short box. Very easy to potentially block this here. What does Dickson do? Gets the snap, very comfortable, rolls to his right. I think he was supposed to just take off some time here. Get a safety. No big deal. Give the Lions 2 more points and then punt from the 20, flip the field, 2 minutes left, 1 timeout, down 12. They got no chance of coming back. But Michael Dickson, being a freak athlete, sees space and opportunity. I'm from Australia, he says. Let me pick up the first down and end the game myself. The whole team's jacked up. Pete Carroll's chewing the shit out of his gum. Way to go. That's an audible. That is an Omaha. That is an apple for Michael Dickson. You see, I think he's just supposed to kind of scoot around, buy some time. No, I got nothing but space. Let me turn it upfield and get the first down. What a play by Michael Dickson for the brand. Handsome Cuzzy from Australia over in Seattle.
Sees a space and opportunity. I kind of think I need Pat McAfee to call a game.
Yeah, or at least be the color guy to where you can go back
saying.
And yeah.
He
needs to be in the booth.
He could legitimately be the next John Madden.
Yeah.
He kind of has that charisma to him.
He does. Ooh.
I mean, I'm no genius TV producer or nothing, but that seems like a natural fit right there.
Yeah, because that call was better than... I mean, Rabel's call was good.
Oh, sure.
But Pat McAfee's call was legendary.
It was right up there. Absolutely. But a fun play, and probably the most talked about play from the game, in just kind of the cherry on top of a contest that the Seahawks just dominated start to finish. I mean, the score's much closer than the game was at any point.
Well, when you go up 21-7, Detroit does get the first score of the game. They get 7 points on the board. The Seahawks make a pretty good drive to start the game, right? They get to midfield, able to flip field position, but then Detroit able to march down the field. Hey, you're kind of, okay, that's a little bit of a bummer that they were able to just march it right down the field the way they were. But then the Seahawks and the way they were able to convert on third down and get 3 straight touchdowns in that second quarter, getting the turnover from Tedrick Thompson, T2, after giving up the touchdown, bouncing back. And those 3 straight touchdowns, 21 points. And then when you go into halftime up 14, the Seahawks aren't losing up 14 going into halftime.
Well, no, because I did my part, Brandan. Like when the Lions scored and went up 7-0, I threw my hat onto the floor over by my front window in my living room.
Yeah.
And sat there and stewed. And as I was stewing, the Seahawks put together a touchdown drive to answer right out of the gate. And I was like, oh, well, that seems good. I guess I can't pick the hat back up. It's going to have to stay right there. And then before I knew it, it was 28 unanswered points. And the hat's going to live there, I think, until we lose again.
Wait, it's still there on the floor?
I swear to God, there's like 3 dead flies around it now, like that I'm going to have to carefully vacuum up without touching it. It hasn't moved a centimeter. And the funny thing is, as I've almost reflexively, while walking by, like just picked it up to wear it, I was like, oh, wait, no, don't do it. Don't do it. So it's still sitting there.
It's a good move. Now, have you deprogrammed the Roomba, or is that cord in the way sufficient to keep the Roomba from running it over?
Yes, so the Roomba, the battery has gone bad in it. So it no longer functions. So I have a new stick vacuum that's like a battery one, which is really cool. I like it a lot. But so I don't have to worry about Roomba messing this up. The only thing I have to worry about is the kid messing this up. I let her know in no uncertain terms that she won't touch that hat, and she rolled her eyes at me because she's 15.
She just does that after everything you say.
That's exactly right. I have actually imagined 3/4 of the audience doing that after everything I say on the podcast, to be honest. So you're welcome, 12s. I threw my hat. It's still on the floor. And that means we're going to destroy the Los Angeles Chargers.
Well, one other game note coming out of that game, Bobby Wagner, now number 2 in Seahawks history for career tackles, 815. He passed Keith Butler, who played from 1978 to 1987, 813 tackles. Next one to run down for Mr. Wagner is Eugene Robinson, who had 984 tackles in his Seahawks career.
Damn, I didn't realize it was that many.
Oh, he played for Seattle for a long time before he went to Atlanta.
He was good. Yeah, he was very good. Oh, that's good. Good for B-Wags. Putting together yet another solid game. Having KJ out there with him. Boy, what a difference does that make?
I know, and hopefully we get to keep KJ on the field. It sounds like he will play, but he sat out of practice Wednesday and Thursday this week.
Correct. According to Pete Carroll, he is expected to play. That was the quote.
All right. Well, what do you say? How about we talk about some Los Angeles Chargers?
Yes. Well, let's start out by giving ourselves a pat on the back for nailing Los Angeles at least 4 times in a row now.
I think we're getting in the groove. It's like when you hit 4 straight drives just right down the center on the golf course, and you're feeling pretty good about it.
What is that? I've never experienced that. Maybe
No?
I have hit 4 straight ones right down the middle, but that third one or the fourth one hits a sprinkler head and is off a goose and into a water hazard. Like, I wouldn't know the feeling of like 4 perfect drives in a row.
It's an awesome feeling.
Is it? That's great, Brandon, for you. Well, let's see if the Seahawks can make it 5 of 6 here with a win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, this is going to be a tall task.
The Chargers are good. Phillip Rivers is good. But the Seahawks defense, they're coming into this game strong. Number 2 overall in turnover differential. They're plus 10 right now. Against the pass, they're 4th in the league, 219 yards per game. 4th fewest points in the NFL, given up per game, 18.7. 5th in total defense, 327 yards. And I think that correlates with how well they're running the ball.
It absolutely does. I mean, it's a straw that stirs the drink right now. I mean, you look at these two teams and really, they're pretty identical. That's the hard part about trying to predict on how this game's going to go, in the sense that, okay, fine, the Chargers score about 5 points a game more than we do, but we give up 5 points less a game than they do. So there's a little bit yin and yang there. But you go down the list on pretty much every other stat, like whether it be time of possession or just total yards, rushing yards are really close. They do tend to rely a little bit more on chunk plays. And so it's kind of, most of this is set up by Phillip Rivers hitting the deep ball, or the fairly deep ball. And it kind of runs through those wide receivers, the 2 Williams and Keenan Allen.
Well, and that's where maybe the Seahawks have a little bit of an advantage in this game, because you watch the game against Tennessee, and Tennessee, the reason why they got scored on was giving up those big, deep plays to the Chargers receivers. And I think that speaks to how good some of the Chargers receivers are too. But the Seahawks tend not to give up those long plays. But the other thing is every time that we've watched Phillip Rivers against the Seahawks, he tears us up with just the check down plays.
So basically, what I can tell after watching 2 games of Chargers is that it's either a 12-plus yard pass or it's a swing pass to a back.
Yeah.
That's more or less their entire offense, with the run game sprinkled in a little bit. So a lot of the games that we've gone into this year, we've talked about the idea that it's really important to stop the run first and foremost. I think that's less important in this game. I think the keys to the game are going to be eliminating the big play, or at least minimizing the big plays, right? Mm-hmm. Those big explosive plays. And the Seahawks rank near the top of the league in that. And then establishing the run game ourselves, because the Chargers can be God on the ground. They're only a middle of the tier defense, a middle pack defense when it comes to stopping the run. I think they're like 18th on that.
I guess where I see the strength of their defense is more on the back end, right? When you have Derwin James, their rookie, playing so well. You got Casey Hayward, one of the top corners in the league, and Desmond King on the other side's playing pretty well too. So you look at the trio there of those 3 guys. You got Denzel Perryman, their linebacker, and then in terms of pass rush, you have Melvin Ingram to worry about.
Right. So when you say the strength of their defense, when I was looking over that defense, short of Melvin Ingram, like, I'm looking at that, and I don't see, and this is including Brandon Mebane, no disrespect to the former Seahawks. I want to see no belly rolls out there in this game.
Well, he's not a guy in terms of pass rush pressure that's putting up significant numbers there.
Right, but I look at the rest of that entire defense, and you know what I see? A bunch of guys who aren't bad, but a bunch of guys who aren't great.
Sure.
Like, they all are pretty good. As a unit, they play fairly well together, although they do give up 46% of their third down conversions. I think that's huge, being able to convert on third down. So if we do stop the big play over the top, or at least minimize it, right?
Yeah.
And force the Chargers to dink and dunk down the field, being that we are giving up only 37% of third down conversions, make it hard for them on a drive. Make them have to convert 3-4 different third downs. The likelihood of that succeeding time in and time out is low. So if we can eliminate those big explosive plays, keep them into long, extended drives, I think you can keep these guys at field goals. And we kind of come into this game and everybody's talking about the big bad Chargers a lot like they talk about the Rams. And the reality of it is they haven't really beaten anybody. And the teams that they have beaten, there hasn't been a lot of real convincing wins in there either.
It's kind of interesting in that you can look at both the Seahawks and the Chargers and say, well, all of their wins have come against teams with a losing record. And I guess I'll put up...
wait a second. I thought the Lions were the hottest team in football and had found their identity and they were really good.
Well, but now they're 3-4 and they've traded Golden Tate and they've given up on the season. So
now that we won, that wasn't a quality win. Now I got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though they beat the Patriots, even though they beat the Dolphins in the way that they did. Yeah.
Yeah. So now if we beat the Chargers, I'm sure that win will be downgraded in such a manner.
The Chargers will still have a winning record, though.
Yeah, they will. And look, the Chargers, they've only really played two good teams, and that's the Rams and the Chiefs. And those were double-digit losses in both those games.
Yeah.
Like, I remember playing the Rams. We barely lost to them. Should have won that game.
Well, all the losses are under double digits for the Seahawks.
Yeah. And we've played every team tight. Like, look, I mean, so they beat the Bills, right, by 11 points.
Beat the Niners.
They beat the Niners by 2 points, like, eked it out. Right? They beat the Raiders by 16. Well, whoop-de-doo. Like, we beat them by 4,000. Then they whooped up on the Browns. Yeah. With mediocre Baker and the coach that was about to get canned. They should have lost that game to the Titans, going back and rewatching that.
Yeah, the Titans missed on that. They had multiple opportunities to get a 2-point conversion at the end of the game.
No, okay, so not only that, they missed a field goal not long before that.
Right.
They had a couple things that, like, you're just like, dang, I watched the receivers drop balls all over the place in that game. And watching that Chargers defense, when the Titans committed to the run and actually went run, pass on a lot of their sequences, that opened up everything for all the receivers. And that's when the Titans were able to move the ball up and down the field. And we know that's what Brian Schottenheimer is going to do.
I like the fact that they're coming into this game playing the way that they are, running the football. Chris Carson, the offensive line. I saw Brian Schottenheimer go uncovered in his press conference this week. Usually when he goes uncovered in the press conference, visor in the game, it gives the visor just that extra amount of power that it needs for game day. He doesn't waste the visor power in the weekly press conference.
I didn't know. See, when you put it in terms of being uncovered, I was picturing something very different of how he came to the podium. I was like, did I miss something? Was there a press conference I didn't see?
Maybe that's just the Navy guy in me. You refer to the hat as a cover, and so if you don't have a hat on, you're uncovered.
Is that something you Navy folks say?
Maybe. I don't know.
Do better, Navy people. That's stupid. It's a hat. Why make up another word? It's like taking the pound sign and calling it the hashtag. You just calling it something else for no reason.
What do you call somebody who's not wearing a hat?
Hatless.
Uncovered, hatless.
Did I need to do I need an identifying phrase for somebody who's not wearing a hat? Like, I've never been haven't had the need to point somebody out who's not wearing a hat and have a specific term for it.
Well, when it's Brian Schottenheimer, these things are important.
Okay, well, he's uncovered, and apparently that's good for our deal.
I've been tracking it. He's had 5 uncovered press conferences so far, 2 full hat press conferences, 1 visor press conference.
So how are the full hat press conferences? How did that buff out?
He went full hat before the Cardinals and then wore a visor in the Cardinals game, and they eked out the win.
Right.
He went full hat in week 6 and then visor again on the Raiders, and then they won that one comfortably. So
just no visor during the week is all we're after.
Yeah.
Is that our compromise?
If he goes visor, every time he's done that, it's been a loss.
It's been a bad day.
Which is just once.
So is that our compromise then? That we allow him to wear
we allow the visor during the game, but he has to go either full hat or no hat in the press conference.
Okay. Agreed. All right. I think this is a good détente.
And when he went with no hat against the Bears, we lost.
But that's just because he and Pete couldn't talk well yet.
Well, see, the visor gives him strength to say, listen, Pete, this is what we're doing.
Oh, yeah, because he went no hat during the game.
Right.
Oh, yeah. No, he needs the visor during the game. You're right.
So I'm going to be tracking this the rest of the season.
I'm willing to concede. Yeah, I love it. These are the important aspects of Seahawks football for sure. Not third down conversions, not red zone rates, none of that stuff.
It's hat to hat percentage in press conference and on game day.
Hat to hat, yeah, absolutely.
I track the practice hat rates too, but unfortunately those don't get published on Seahawks.com.
Come on, John Boyle. Time to start. We need a hat tracker.
Michael Shaw Dugar, let us know. You're there.
Man, jeez.
Hat tracker.
I mean, instead of chatting up Frank Clark and trying to find out how much money he's going to get in the locker room, maybe you could be tracking Shoddy's hat usage.
We just need somebody on the ground with eyes to track Shoddy's hat wearing throughout the week.
Right.
All right, back to the Chargers.
No hat, whatever hat, visors, like this. I feel like the Seahawks are the better team coming into this game. Like, I feel like I can say that with actual factual certainty. You know what I mean? Right. Sometimes we say that with a little, going into the Rams game and it's like, I think we're going to beat them, and you're like, yeah, I hope we beat them.
I don't think we did say that. I think we're going to beat them, but I do. Phillip Rivers is a really good quarterback though. And he's had a great October. We've talked about in the past. He usually plays well against us, particularly. I mean, we haven't seen Phillip Rivers come up to Seattle in the regular season since 2010. The last game we played the Chargers was down in San Diego in 2014. And that was a game that was super hot. And they lost, 30-21, I think.
Phillip Rivers couldn't do no wrong that game. That was one of the more maddening games I've ever watched. Just because that was it week 1 or was it week 2?
It was early on in the season, yeah.
It was very early. And I remember coming into that season, that was that preseason that Russell was just throwing the ball.
It wasn't week 1 because that was the game against the Packers.
Oh, correct. Yeah. And you're just coming into that season thinking that there's no team that's going to stop the Seahawks with the defense playing at the level it was at the time. And Russell Wilson seemingly taking it to the next level because he'd finished off that last season so hot. And nope, went into that game and Phillip Rivers just said no, throwing lasers.
Yep, week 2.
But he's never played the Russell Wilson-led Seahawks in CenturyLink. And one other thing that I think will be beneficial for us is Ken Norton spent the last 3 years facing him twice a year. So he's familiar with their game plan. He's familiar with his skill set. And he understands the best ways to get after him and make his life miserable. Now, you're probably not going to sack him much because he gets the ball out in a hurry.
Yeah.
And he does move. He can't move, but he somehow moves around the pocket with pretty decent results at the end of the day. He's kind of Brady-ish that way. And you hear every coach and Seahawks player just rave about how smart he is. I don't want to turn this into a Phillip Rivers gush fest, but he's dang good. And it worries me.
You nailed it. Only sacked 10 times this year, and his stats are ridiculous. Whether there's pressure or no pressure, blitzed or not blitzed, it doesn't matter much with Phillip Rivers. No. So he's really one of the quarterbacks that you don't want to blitz because he's going to find a way to beat you. But the key is you still want to make him a little bit uncomfortable with the front 4 guys that you have. But still, there's not much chance that he's just going to check down to the guy that's his outlet receiver. But I think you hit on it, Adam. I think Ken Norton is going to be one of the keys for the Seahawks. I went back and looked at it. He's 4-1 during his 3 years in Oakland. The one loss that he had was 17-16 on a last-second field goal by the Chargers. So he knows.
Wait. That's got to be fake news. You just said that Chargers field goal kicker hit a clutch field goal to win a game for them?
I know. I had to double check too. That didn't seem right.
That sounds like it happened in an alternative universe or something.
It must have,
universe.
But
yeah, huh.
That's how it went down in the record books. So
I'm calling shenanigans, I think, on that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's weird. So that year, though, that Ken Norton was fired from Oakland, Raiders lost 30-10 to the Chargers.
Well, so you track Schotty's hat, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we need to track for our defensive coordinator is Rye Smiles. Like, I've now watched Ken Norton give press conferences for basically 8 weeks, right?
Uh-huh.
Like the first couple weeks, he's pretty stone-faced and kind of like, we got this, we got that. It's going to be difficult, da-da-da-da-da. And then the games where the defense has come out and really put the clamps on people, in the press conference, he's just got this like cat ate the canary grin on his face and is just so relaxed and confident and knows exactly what he's going to do with the personnel that he has. He had that swag going in this last press conference. Rye Smiles all around.
Oh, that's funny that you pick up on that. Yeah, that's...
He just has that smirk going.
It's true.
I know.
I hope that carries over with some of the swagger with the team, too. This could be... We haven't talked a whole lot about Trey Flowers, rookie corner, that much this year. And
he's going to have a tough day.
He's going to have a tough day against these Chargers receivers on the outside.
Speedy. Like who the hell is this Tyrell Williams guy? Like, where did they just find this other Williams dude who just is blowing the lid off of defenses all of a sudden? He's like their David Moore.
They have more than one Williams?
They've got two Williamses. It's one too many, because the Mike Williams, I know. Like,
right,
he's
he
from
was
Syracuse.
their first-round draft pick a couple years ago.
Right. He was playing with Watson when they won the national championship.
Yeah.
So, like, with Clemson. Right. Yeah, this other Williams is Tyrell, Ty apostrophe something. Like, I don't know. I don't know where he came from. All of a sudden, he's just here and just catching bombs. He's got to be from, like, backyard state Northwest. It was like a second stringer for them.
He's from Western Oregon.
There you go.
Which is apparently a school in Oregon.
And being close-ish to Oregon, you know how many times I've heard of Western Oregon?
Never.
Zero.
I thought Oregon was the Western school in Oregon.
Yeah, I don't know. It was very confusing. So, yeah, they have another Williams, and he's good.
We do a show that covers a lot of the West Coast. I guarantee you none of our listeners went to Western Oregon.
You guarantee it?
Guaranteed.
Okay. That's interesting. There's got to be one.
I mean, we have some people from Eastern Washington, so...
Yeah, but we don't need to talk about that gross school, do we? Like, I mean, we can just gloss over that.
I know we have
program.
Eastern Washington listeners.
Gross.
But Western Oregon, that sounds like it was made up to combat Eastern Washington.
Maybe one of the listeners is actually like at least driven by Western Oregon.
They can confirm its existence.
Yeah, maybe they got like a pamphlet in the mail from Western Oregon once. I don't know. Maybe it's an online college for all I know. I have no idea. But yeah, this Tyrell Williams kid is good. And he's having a breakout year. I mean, the Chargers are pretty loaded when it comes to wide receiver. Oh, and I don't know if you knew this, but Antonio Gates is back from the dead.
Oh, my gosh. I can't even believe he's still in the league. What, is Tony Gonzalez going to come and play for the Chiefs when we play them?
He wasn't supposed to play this year, but I guess their number one option got hurt early on in camp. And basically, I think Phillip Rivers promised to like trade 3 of his children to Antonio Gates to get him to play. I mean, he's got enough to spare.
Sure.
So, like, yeah, he
seems like 3. A bad deal for Antonio Gates, but okay.
I don't know. Maybe he really likes kids. I don't know. Just wants to be a stepdad.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyways, he's back, occasionally doing Antonio Gates things.
They got Melvin Gordon running the ball. They got Austin Eckler, who's running the ball well, too, apparently. Yeah,
he looked like that little whitehead.
Uh-huh.
He plays a lot like him.
He does.
We'll see how much we see of Eckler. I mean, obviously, Gordon coming back from injury, but also coming off the bye. That'll be interesting to see. No Joey Bosa.
No.
His foot injury is going to keep him out, and thank goodness.
Yeah, I could do without facing him.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson's been playing awfully well, though. I don't even think, have we even mentioned Russell's name after his exceptional performance on Sunday with his perfect quarterback rating, nearly 15 yards per attempt?
How did we leave out Captain Perfect?
I know.
I mean, what a performance.
Crushed it.
Yeah, he absolutely is crushing it. And that's been kind of the formula for success throughout his career. I mean, going all the way back to his Wisconsin days. I think he set the national record at the time for passing efficiency when he left that year. I mean, when he can be that efficient quarterback and gobble up chunk plays, make smart decisions, like that makes us really tough to beat. And then also watching the Titans game, one of the things that stood out is they definitely used the read option and RPOs and things like that to kind of use Mariota's strengths as a runner, and they were effective with it. I thought that game was an interesting comp just because the offenses are similar-ish. The quarterbacks have similar-ish skill sets. And I could see Russell Wilson maybe having his best rushing day. If they really want to key in on Chris Carson and Mike Davis, this could be the week where you see Russell Wilson have his biggest game rushing by far.
Well, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for them to break that out a little bit.
I love the idea that they are taking the correct option as often as they are.
Sure.
Whether that's handing the ball off or Russ keeping it. Like, whatever that formula is, like, just stick with that.
Well, if they can keep doing it, but, you do have Gus Bradley on the other side of the football and his defensive mind that worked so well for the Seahawks for so many years. You can definitely see a difference in the type of defense that the Chargers play. It's really what has kind of turned them around and made them into a viable playoff team this season.
Like I said, not a bunch of superstars on this defense, but they're all playing just pretty well. And as a group, they're playing pretty well.
Yeah. And
they can be had in the running game, which is the number one most important thing for the Seahawks going into this game. And we have played teams that are above them and ran the ball on them, whether that was the Rams, who were somewhere around 10th, the Bears, who I think are 3rd. We could have ran the ball on the Bears. We just didn't.
Right.
Like the few times that we actually tried it, we could. Oh, and Dallas is like 7th or something like that against the run. And we ran it all over them. When I was looking at this game, I looked so much at our defense and how it matches up with the Chargers offense. Because to me, that's the tail of the tape at the end of the day. Because really, when it comes to us offensively, it really doesn't matter who we're playing. We just impose our will up front and with the running game, and then there's just nothing the defense can do. It just doesn't matter who the opponent is.
Yeah, if the Seahawks continue to play the way they did against the Rams, against the Lions, they win by 7 points in this game.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I mean, there is a world where maybe special teams comes through, because that was one thing I noticed in that Titans-Chargers game is the Chargers kick return coverage was just awful.
The Chargers, in terms of, I was looking at DVOA, they are second to last or last in the league in special teams DVOA.
Well, apparently that stat matches the eyeball test then. Hey, Rashad Penny could have his breakout game as a Seahawk, as a returner.
That's why I went and looked at it, was because watching the Titans game, I'm like, geez, just how bad are they on special teams? Oh, yeah, 32. They're 32 in the league for special teams DVOA. And the Seahawks are 17, middle of the pack.
There you go. And that feels about right.
Matches the eye test.
You know what else I'm excited to see in this game, Brandon, is Frank Clark going up against good old Russell Okung.
Ooh. That's going to be a fun matchup. But while we're talking defensive line, offensive line, I'm expecting a big day from Jaron Reed. Dan Feeney, their left guard, he's bad. 21 pressures. Sam Tevy, the right tackle, 22 pressures. Of the 10 sacks that they've given up this year, those two have given up 6.
Yeesh. Yeah, that's no bueno there.
So maybe it could be a good day for Jacob Martin, too. We're starting to see him more on the opposite side of Frank Clark.
And it sounds like Rasheem Green will be back for this game. I feel like our depth when it comes to pass rushers is kind of back to full force. Deion Jordan's going to play. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully that pass rush will be able to get home, because the Titans were able to get home 2-3 times against the Chargers 2 weeks ago.
We're going to need a big game from our defensive line. I mean, that's key against Phillip Rivers.
Don't get alarmed as a Seahawks fan if you watch Trey Flowers and Shaq get tore up on 5 yards, 7 yards, 4 yards, 8 yards ago. I think you're going to see a pretty steady diet of that.
It's the concern is them having their receivers get behind those corners, and I think it's probably going to happen at least once in this game.
Well, that's why I said earlier that to eliminate the chunk play would be kind of the way to go, and then kind of revise that and said, well, maybe just minimize the chunk play because, yeah, you're going to get got once or twice. I mean, shoot, even Matt Stafford got us here a little bit in the last game on that first drive. Does this not feel similar to you, that Chargers team and the Lions team? Like, don't they feel like similar teams, only like the Chargers are like Lions plus?
They are. Well, certainly on defense, they're Lions plus. And I actually believe in the run game for the Chargers, whereas I didn't quite believe that the Jim Bob Cooter and the Lions were going to stick with that run game. I think it just worked out for them in previous weeks, and everybody said, oh, the Lions can run. Well, they can run, but do they? The Los Angeles Chargers, they actually do run the ball.
They're middle of the pack in the league. I mean, 15th in the league rushing the football.
In terms of attempts?
I'm assuming it's yards. It just give NFL.com's app just amazing credit for putting up league rankings on their like versus page, right? And it just says offense 17th and 28th, defense 11th and 3rd, passing 20th and 28th, and rushing 15th and 9th. I'm not sure if that's offense or defense. I'm not sure if that's like yards per game, points per game, anything like that. Just all I know is rushing 15th for the Chargers.
I would look more toward the amount of attempts versus the amount of yards at predicting a team's willingness to run the football.
So yards per attempt?
That too. I mean, that helps.
Well, isn't that what you just said?
Yards per attempt can be skewed by big runs, which is what the case was with the Lions.
So then what if that doesn't work, then what do you look for?
Rushing attempts.
No matter what, you're just going to run the football. Like, that's kind of that's the marker for you?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I need to see some success along with a commitment to it. It's like, cool, you're really committed to running the football, but you only average 2.3 yards per carry. Well, whoop-de-doo-da-day.
So one of the things that I would look at is Baltimore Ravens, for example. 215 attempts, but 3.6 yards per attempt. That's not real strong.
3.6 isn't bad.
It's toward the bottom of the league.
Is it really? I would imagine that being like 17th.
It's second to last.
No way.
Yeah.
What's middle of the pack?
4.3.
And what are the Seahawks at?
4.2. So the middle of the pack, the Steelers are 16 at 4.3. Seahawks are 4.2.
Interesting.
But when you look at it in terms of number of attempts, the Seahawks are number 6 overall with 222.
Right.
And so only the Browns, Patriots, Texans, Rams, and Niners have run the ball more. And those are teams that you could look at and say, yeah, they're running teams and they're running the ball effectively.
Where are the Chargers in terms of attempts?
Number 23 overall.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But 4.9 yards per attempt.
Okay.
And the Lions are even lower, 162 attempts, 4.7 yards per attempt.
Gotcha. So
I do think that they're better than the Lions at running the ball. And they do it more.
Slightly
Clearly.
more. Like you get them down just a little bit, they'll abandon that in a hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't see their running game as being the straw that stirs the drink for them at all. If they're getting to the running game and that's a large component of their offense, that means there's a lot of other things going severely wrong for you on defense.
So it's a lot like the Lions then.
That's what I was saying. Yeah. The Chargers feel like the Lions plus.
Yeah.
And I mean, we kind of ragdolled the Lions, and that was on the road.
And now we get the Chargers at home.
It's interesting to see the media's reaction this week and kind of how they feel like this game will go. Like, I'm starting to hear a begrudging amount of respect given to the Seahawks. Like, they a sleeper playoff team, maybe. No. Well, but maybe. No.
Maybe.
Yeah, there's one person that like brings it up like kind of sheepishly, and like two other panel members that look at him are like, nah, just smack him down. So yeah, that's better than every panel member saying on whatever TV show you happen to watch, they're terrible.
No, they're actually good. I was looking at Football Outsiders in terms of statistics, statistical analysis, trying to take out some of the bias in it. Seahawks right now, 50% to make the playoffs. Coin flip.
That actually feels about right, does it not?
Right.
It's kind of like, we got to see what these next 4 games bring.
You look at some of the other teams on that list, both New Orleans and Carolina are up there relatively high, around 80%. And I think a big part of that is just one of those teams is going to win the division and make it that way.
Which will be New Orleans.
I would expect that.
It'll be New Orleans.
Yeah.
This Carolina hype train is going a little overboard. This feels like the Baltimore hype train from about 3 weeks ago. And I was like, I'm not sure Baltimore's all that good.
Other teams in the NFC to watch for that's on the board here. Washington, they have them as a 75% chance to make the playoffs. Yeah, that's because they play that crap division. Then you got Chicago leading the North at 68%. Green Bay and Minnesota both at 38-33. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Seahawks. Yeah, they're the ones at 50. Everybody else, the Rams, 99.8%. Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty good shot at this point. They're when you're making the playoffs. Yeah, you really only need 2 wins to be like, yeah, we're making the playoffs. I think they can go 2-6. I think they should go 2-6. I'd like that a lot. It'd make things interesting. Oh, yes, it would. Yeah, I was really rooting for that Packers upset last week. Ty Montgomery stole my joy. And now they have New Orleans. Yeah, they'll lose that game. They're losing in New Orleans. And then they play us. And they're losing that game. They're going to be on a 2-game losing streak at the end of the next 2 weeks. And everybody is going to be freaking out and wringing their hands, and the articles, what's wrong with the Rams, are going to start coming out. Oh, and that'll be going into their bye week, won't it? That's perfect. Perfect timing. And this is when the team chemistry starts to unravel, and everything that I predicted at the beginning of the year starts to happen. It's all going to fall into place for you. That's exactly right. Because I'm a sayer of sooth. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to end it for this half of the show. What do you say we get into the second half? Yeah, expect more blind optimism, people. This November, 12% of the proceeds from rides to and from CenturyLink Field with Lyft will directly benefit the nonprofit The Mission Continues and their efforts to empower veterans transitioning into their communities. Use the code GOHAWKS18 into the promo section of the Lyft app or use the invite link in our show notes to receive $5 off 12 rides to and from CenturyLink Field on game days. And you can also buy some Salute to Service gear at the Pro Shop, which also sends 12% to The Mission Continues. Thanks to Alex for sending this tweet over. Kind of an interesting tweet from Brady Henderson, the ESPN reporter. Said Seahawks OC Brian Schottenheimer says Tyler Lockett regularly comes to him with ideas for plays drawn out on paper and labeled. Quote, "It's weird because most of the guys that give you ideas are plays for themselves. They're not for him unless it's playing quarterback." Yeah, I love it. Do those go in the good playbook? I think I'm having a hard time telling a difference from a good and bad playbook in the Schottenheimer offense. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about that for half a tick. All right, because I got the oven like all nice and warmed up. I found some sauces that I'm told go well with crow. I'm about ready to bake that bird and eat it. I'm about ready to eat crow on Brian Schottenheimer. We'll see what this next 4 games bring, but I want to give him some credit. Last week, getting down 7-0 early, not abandoning the run game for a second. Yeah. I see formations that are being used that weren't being used at the beginning of the year, motions that I think are really helping Russ decipher coverages, also confusing defenses. I love this jet sweep action that they keep showing. Tyler's actually getting some good positive yardage on those. And that's going to set up for some other things going down the stretch that I think are going to be really exciting. All these bunch formations where receivers are exploding out, discombobulating defenses a lot like the Rams offense does by creating space, by getting everybody bunched in and creating space on the outside for all of our smaller, faster receivers and playmakers. There's some creativity there. The offensive line is playing well. Brian Schottenheimer's doing a good job. And I'm surprised, and I'm really excited to, I think, almost ready to say I'm wrong on him. You still can give yourself a little bit of time, but it'll be okay to be wrong. It'll be fine. Yeah. You know, talking about some of the creativity of plays, I went back and looked at the 3rd and 1 play where Ed Dickson ends up getting the 42-yard catch. Dude, that was cool. I didn't know this until I'd seen who was breaking it down. Somebody broke it down and they pointed out this blocking scheme. And I think that's what you're about to get where to. Jerron Brown, he goes in motion on the inside and lines up kind of between Ifedi and Dickson, and then he takes on that blocker while Dickson kind of sheds his and then moves out to the outside, leaving nobody at all to cover him on that part of the field.
I've never seen that before.
I've never known to really look for it either, but it was kind of cool how they drew it up.
I mean, I would have noticed that at some point watching football over the last 20 years, but I've never seen anybody use their wide receivers in the blocking scheme like that. And then not only that, but give Jerron Brown the credit of holding up. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ed Dickson had a whale of a game. We didn't really even get into him all that much. I think he's going to be a real asset for this team.
Yeah, first game back, too. He catches a touchdown on his very first pass.
I mean, and he was solid at the point of attack. I think he's an upgrade over Nick Vannett.
Yeah, Ed Dickson, in terms of Pro Football Focus numbers, one of the top graded players on the team, especially in the passing game and even pass blocking. He was okay, better than average.
That'd be great. We should be doing backflips.
He's only in there for 20 of the 63 total plays on offense. So for him to have an impact in his very first game coming back, it was him, David Moore, and Russell Wilson, your top graded guys on offense. And number 4, Chris Carson.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a problem with Pro Football Focus in their grades right now.
Are you?
If I just look at how they've graded our offensive linemen.
Oh, yeah.
Who are playing really well. And somehow everybody but Dwayne Brown has a below average grade.
But when you break it down and break out the pass blocking versus run blocking, I think...
Yeah, they don't know their head from their ass, apparently, because last time I looked, Russell Wilson wasn't getting dump trucked every time he took 2 steps back away from the center like he used to be. And guys were getting graded in about that area. Like, I mean, I don't know about you, Brandon, but it looks a hell of a lot better than it did before. There's a pocket thingy on the regular. Russell doesn't look scared. Like, Sierra can sleep at night because she doesn't think that Russ is going to die on the field. These guys are balling out and they're getting below average grades. What the hell are you guys looking at?
No, see, I'm seeing it differently. I'm seeing the pass blocking grades look competent and above average.
Yeah, what's their overall grade? If their pass blocking grade is competent or just slightly below average, their run blocking grade should bring their combined grade up to at least average. Like, they are destroying people at the point of attack.
Their run blocking grades are what's bringing them down. Looking at the pass blocking grades, Dwayne Brown.
There you go.
Dwayne Brown has an 80. DJ Fluker has 79. You have Fant with a 77. Sweezy 75. And Ifedi is even in the 70s at 71. It's the run blocking grades that are actually the only guy who's above. So 60 is average, right? And everything above that's, either above average. And then we start to get into the upper 60s. That's when you say, oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. George Fant in the 80s. And then I'm scrolling down the list. Justin Britt, 53. Ifedi, 45. J.R. Sweezy, 43.
Yeah, I only got one thing to say about that. Bullshit fish!
Dwayne Brown is in the 60s at 63.
This is why I have a problem with the Pro Football Focus grading system right now.
I think that speaks to how well Carson's doing, though, doesn't it?
Look, Chris Carson has been very good and has definitely been piling up yards after contact, but the holes are there. Like, they're pushing people 2-3 yards off the ball consistently. We're listening to different music if they stand behind those grades.
Well, it's interesting to me that it's actually good in the passing game. I don't see why there would be a disparity necessarily, because, I definitely, by the eyeball test, though, you look at it and you go, well, their pass blocking is definitely better. And it maybe even be the strength, considering the amount of pressure that Russell Wilson's had to deal with since DJ Fluker came in. But the running game is solid, and it's even recognized by Brian Baldinger, who put out a breakdown of the Seahawks run game this last week.
This is the same guy that put out that video, was it last year, of just all the linemen just going down like they were shot?
Right.
Letting everybody just run by them.
And now it's the reverse.
Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, Seattle. They got a real offense. With real linemen, and a real run game, and a real running back. And sometimes they even put their third tackle, George Fant, in the slot, just to go mess with Detroit, as he just pounded them all day yesterday. 42 runs. Every kind of run you can. But if you want a running back, go to Stillwater, Oklahoma. Barry Sanders, Thurman Thomas. Go find yourself a Chris Carson. Tough. Stays on his feet. Now, here we come. Sweezy's back home. He's a Seahawk. He's just been a nasty, dirty, fun, just loving it in the trenches type of player every Sunday. Just getting guys down. Detroit grabbing cloth. Grabbing cloth ain't getting Chris Carson down. Dwayne Brown got his track shoes on. Just looking for some Honolulu blue. They took Ford Motor Company steel and they just mangled it. And they spread it all over Ford Field. Look at this. Look at the carnage. Look at the carnage right there.
Look at the carnage as there's Detroit Lions laying all over the field after a Chris Carson run.
I love it. I love it. He's fired up. And Baldy being a former trenches player, I mean, he can see the physicality in what these guys bring, and that Pro Football Focus is totally wrong with their grades. He sees it. They got real players with real offensive linemen and a real running back.
Gosh, putting him in the category with Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders.
Well, those guys came out of Oklahoma State.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other guys too.
Yeah, that's true. There's been other backs, I imagine. Yeah. But Chris Carson really is playing with the kind of physicality that it warms my heart, and it's exactly what we need.
Yeah, you love that.
I love it. He's a real running back.
I have to think that was your favorite touchdown of the 4 touchdowns in the game where Chris Carson is bowling over dudes to get in the end zone.
Oh, I was full John Madden in the middle of that run. Boom, boom. Like as he's hitting dudes. Just, I was excited. I scared my hat while it was lying on the floor.
It twitched a little.
Yeah. And that was a thing of beauty.
Well, a thing of beauty is when we add more new members of the flock, Adam, and we got some new flockers this week.
Hell yeah, man. We've been on a roll lately. I'm really impressed with the flock and all the little flockers that are getting in here. It's amazing.
Welcome to the flock to Laszlo Toth, in for $5, gets a patch, gets some bonus shows, and gets in the Pick'em League. And also, welcome to Harry Latari, or Harry Lottery. Probably Latari.
Really?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's lucky enough for it to be lottery.
And in for $1, which is the cost of a lottery ticket.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Bonus shows, stickers for Mr. Lottery.
Randy Peterson, in for $1. Welcome to the flock to Randy.
Are you sure it's not Pettersson?
Peterson? Could be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know for sure because
you don't know for sure.
These names don't come with a pronunciation guide, but I do my best.
That's true.
You know whose name I do know and how to pronounce it correctly? Associate producer Dustin Mock.
That's right. He was coming up with some beauties in the Ring of Honor during the game.
Yeah,
like I had to give him props and be like, that's why you're associate producer, my friend.
Well, we will be giving him props and thanking everyone that supports the show at $12 and above at the end of the show this week.
Yeah, all those amazing folks who are in the Ring of Honor Facebook page, which is, I mean, I know we say it ad nauseum, but even the people that are in it and have been doing it for a while, it is the coolest group on Facebook, by far.
That's true. There's no contest.
And you know what the best thing is you don't even have to get there on merit. You can just buy your way in.
Well, we take payment via gettintheflock.com. This is a value for value show, so whatever value you think it's worth to you, you can give back to us. And sometimes that's in the form of a positive review. This one here from Bags Gig says, best of the best. Holy catfish. Such a great podcast. I started listening because of the flock of donkeys.
Oh, wow.
There's a throwback. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I keep listening because this is by far and away the best Seahawks podcast out there. A brilliant mix of football knowledge and creative complaining on Adam's part. You are both better at life than Skip Bayless. Keep up the good work, boys, and go Hawks.
Well, thank you, sir. I will have to relay that to Jared, who was my cohort for Flock of Donkeys when we started that. Brandan joining us after our first couple episodes, and then we just quit doing that. But it was fun for half a season.
We're kind of like the show Frasier in a way, right? This is a spinoff of Flock of Donkeys.
Yeah, but that would connotate that Flock of Donkeys was as successful as Cheers.
Not the case.
No, we fell a little short of that. Mainly due to lack of effort. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, welcome aboard. Appreciate the review, and that does help out the show. So all you folks, if you're a freeloader and you don't want to, give money to the show, that's fine. Just go write something nice. You can write something mean too, but whatever you want. Brandon says this is a value for value model, and that's true. But if we do detract value from your life, you're not getting any money back. Just so you know,
you can just stop listening, and then you can have that time back in your life.
I'm just making the terms of this clear.
That's good. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of cheers, John Davison sends in an email and says, "Hi, fellas. Seahawks winning here. A great win and a stylish one, too. Loving our running game and our O-line. Really feel like we are gearing up to move on. However, this next 4 weeks are going to define our season, and totally agree with Adam that 2 wins would be great. If we split the Minnesota and Kansas City games, then we would be 10-6. That should be a wild card, and then anything can happen. Should be fun and a roller coaster ride. Go Hawks." From John, he says, "P.S. Confused about your Cheers characters? Easy. Hiya, Carla and Diane."
Yeah, I didn't realize that Cheers had that much popularity over in England.
It was a big show here.
Well, I understand that, but they have their own shows there.
Right.
I didn't know that was one that happened to have some legs over there. That's news to me. It turns out, Brandon, that there's lots of things about England I don't know. Unfortunately, we have John and Barry and everyone else over there to straighten me out.
Let us know. Yeah. I think John nailed it, though. Personality-wise, I think that's more accurate than Woody and Cliff.
Okay, so what was his analogy again?
Carla and Diane, which I'm assuming you would be Carla.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that too. I like kind of the bossy, curly haired. Yeah,
Diane. I'm good with that. At least I'm not Lilith or Rebecca.
That's true. That could be a disaster.
And
I think Diane had a little more grace than you have. I mean, personally.
Okay. Well, I know Shelley Long. She crushed it in True Beverly Hills. That was a good movie.
Yeah, that's an all-timer. It's an all-timer for sure.
So if I can be compared there,
then you'll take it.
Yeah.
Cool. I can't remember the actress's name that played Carla.
Oh, it was
something Perlman. Is that right?
Rhea Perlman.
Okay, there it is. All right, I'll take the Rhea Perlman comparison. That works for me.
Yeah, married Danny DeVito.
Is that a true fact?
Oh, they're married for a long time.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
They must have done it in England.
And then they... I think they played husband and wife a few times, too. I know they did in Matilda.
Oh, a movie I didn't... I read the book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Pretty solid movie, too.
Yeah, okay.
On to...
something that matters to everybody else.
Like an email from Gary Blum.
Oh, what up, Gary?
Says, "I'm late to the game, but submitting another forgotten about tape. Bubble tape. Anything made by Hubba Bubba is clearly better than any 3M product."
It's certainly tastier. Gary, I like where Gary's head's at here.
I would love to see Pete Carroll. You'd think that he has a chew can in the back of his pocket, the circle, and have Pete Carroll pull that out and just pull out a strip of bubble tape.
Roll a bubble tape. And then, now that would change the whole line of questioning that he gets regarding the gum. I mean, he often gets the whole, how many pieces of gum do you go through during a game? And that's right.
You just say one.
You would have to ask, how many inches of gum do you go through in a game? And there would be a whole breakdown of how much he pulls off per chew, how often he renews gum.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that would give reporters probably about 6 months of reporting gold.
It's true.
Yeah, and bubble tape, some great exposure.
So here we go. For the Seattle beat reporters listening, we will supply an entire case of bubble tape.
Done.
If you give us the day-to-day reporting on Brian Schottenheimer's headwear practice.
This seems like a fair deal. And if any,
that's what I mean. Yeah. You said it's like 4 to 6 months of content on their part with the bubble tape.
Right. Yeah.
We get our content from the Schottenheimer headwear.
Totally.
Even trade.
This is win-win.
So Brady, Michael Sean, Greg Bell, if any of you are listening, let's make a deal.
Totally. These are how great deals are made.
One more email here from Scott in Spokane. Love the podcast. Listen to it when I'm working, driving, truck, delivering beer. I think the articles about power rankings are hilarious, as they got us at 15 and other teams above us, whom I'm sure we will take care of when we play them.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like, I was looking. So I went down the power rankings rabbit hole and started looking at all the different ones. Maybe hoping that I was going to see something different somewhere. Like there was some writer or organization that understood what this team is at this point in the year. And the thing is almost every single one of them had us at 15.
Huh.
There was one that had us at 15 the week before on the bye week, and then after a dominating win over the Lions, who used to be a good team until we beat them, now they're a terrible team, and still at 15.
Yeah. No movement.
Nope. But the Texans had jumped ahead of us.
Yeah, great win, Seahawks.
That's fine. Keep sleeping on us at your own risk. I'm waiting for the Prisco bombshell article. Like, it's coming, right? Like the one where he just totally trashes the entire organization.
It's been a while since we've been talking about Prisco.
I know. I think he was just hoping we were going to be bad and he didn't have to talk about us, but here we are.
I can't tell, with regard to Scott, would delivering beer be a cool job or not? Like, on one hand, everybody you visit is probably super happy to see you. But on the other hand, you're like dropping off beer. And it's like you have to part with it.
Here would be my worry. So, you know how if you work at a restaurant that serves a particular kind of cuisine, that you eventually just want nothing to do with that particular kind of cuisine? If you're delivering beer all day, could that make you hate beer? And if so, like, that would be the best job to give alcoholics. Like, because then they would cure them of wanting the beer. They would then hate the beer.
Scott, let us know. Do you hate beer?
Hopefully not. Like, I'm worried for Scott. But at least he listens to us while he's driving around in the beer truck. So, like I said earlier, when you're driving around, just yell out, "Big balls!" and you're going to feel good. Especially if you do it in a beer truck.
Heck yeah. Well, people know then.
Right.
Like, they'll know why.
Exactly.
Like, oh yeah, that guy appreciates Big Balls Dickson.
That's exactly right. He appreciates fast punters.
On to do better and better at life.
All right, Brandon, my do better this week is for a few members of the Jacksonville Jaguars. While in London this past week, 4 Jacksonville Jaguar players went into a club, were raising hell, having a good time, drinking bottles of champagne, and then just started to walk out the door. And apparently there was a little bit of an argument, and they were picked up by the police. The store owner thought that they were stealing from him, like they weren't going to pay his bill. They thought they were getting comped on all of their drinks. Guess what, dude? They don't care about you over there like we care about you here. Like, they don't. When you're drinking really expensive booze, I think it was like $495 bottle of booze.
Holy smokes.
Like something along. Yeah, it was really expensive, whatever it was. If you're drinking super expensive booze by the bottle, you best know whether you're paying for it or not.
Wait, this was before a game?
Well, not before the game. It was like the day before the game, or the day before the day of the game.
Okay, so yeah, early Saturday. Okay, so, but still.
Oh, man, you think 20-somethings with money in a foreign country on a road trip aren't out partying like a night or two before the game?
I guess when I think of professional athletes, I think, I guess you probably do bounce back younger. You bounce back more easily in your early 20s, right?
Yeah. It only takes you one day in your 20s. Like if it's real bad, it takes you 2. But for every decade that you age, it takes you one more day to get over a hangover. So while you're in your 30s now, it's like 3. In your 40s, it takes like 4. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. It just catches up to you.
Barry Church, DJ Hayden, Ronnie Harrison, and Jared Wilson. So there's secondary crew.
Well, you don't only need to cover receivers. You have to cover your bill. Okay? Do better, guys.
My do better this week, also directed at a particular few people. This, though, with the Packers.
Oh.
A lot of people on the Packers need to do better, because against the Rams, you got Ty Montgomery taking it out of the end zone when he's told by his coach to kneel. And the excuse that he gives is that he didn't know if he was in the end zone or not. Dude.
Was that seriously what he said?
He said that. It's your job as a returner to know if you're in the end zone or not.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Mike McCarthy, you should have the respect to your players. You clearly don't. If you tell a dude to do something and he doesn't do it, it's a problem for you. And then Aaron Rodgers throwing his crybaby hissy fit afterward, too. Oh, I didn't get to the ball. Oh, I didn't get a chance to bring our team back to score. Aaron Rodgers, do better. Ty Montgomery, Mike McCarthy, do better. And then the GM goes and trades Ty Montgomery for a 7th rounder in 2020. Just freaking cut the guy. I get it. You're mad that he brought the ball out and he shouldn't have. But for the GM, do better.
I mean, I know Aaron had a bit of a hissy fit. I didn't realize it was kind of as bad as it was. It wasn't pretty. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Really, the most damning thing to me out of that is the idea that Ty Montgomery just took off against explicit instructions to take a knee.
That's weird.
Well, that just shows you nobody listens to McCarthy. I think I said it on the pick show. Like
this might be his last year
in Green Bay.
Yeah,
it better be, because if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I want to trade. I'm tired of this dysfunction, man.
Well, he just signed a new deal too.
Cool. So they can trade you, and you're guaranteed for the next team that gets you. Like, they know what they're getting.
They're not trading him. They would fire McCarthy at Aaron Rodgers' explicit direction.
You mean they will fire McCarthy at Aaron Rodgers' explicit direction? I mean, the writing's on the wall, right? Because I honestly believe they don't make the playoffs this year.
I don't think they will either. On to Better at Life.
All right, Brandon, my Better at Life this week is for the Kepler Space Telescope. And a lot of you guys probably have never heard of Kepler, the space telescope, named after the guy who figured out that the universe is expanding. He's kind of a smart dude, kind of a big deal, that Kepler guy. But the Kepler Space Telescope was put up, I believe, in 2009, and its primary mission was to find planets outside of our solar system. And I know many of you might not think that's a big deal, but up until just these last few years, we didn't know for sure if there were planets orbiting the other stars in the universe. We didn't know that. And because of the Kepler Space Telescope, they cataloged over 2,500 different planets. 2,500 worlds that we now know about that we didn't before. And it would detect these planets by using what's known as the transit method. So basically, you could kind of see the light of the star dim as the planet went through the plane of vision between the space telescope and the star. So we'd have to be on the same plane as the orbit of the planets. And it turns out, we found 2,500 just even with that small of a window to catch planets in, right? And so the way you would detect it is the light would dim as the planet goes across the face of the sun. And by using this method, they were able to find, like I said, a crap ton of planets. Some of them they feel are in the Goldilocks zone, which is basically where Earth resides, and others that are also rocky planets in that Goldilocks zone. The Kepler Space Telescope may be the first thing that has observed other worlds that could actually harbor life. And unfortunately, it's come to the end of its mission.
Oh.
It's run out of fuel. And it no longer can perform the operations that it once did. It actually was extended, its mission extended and extended again after the James Webb Telescope has yet to come online. Because get your poop in a group, NASA. We need James Webb. Quit screwing around. It's been delayed 15 years, and it's 10 times the budget now. Get it done.
Did they try whacking it to get it going again?
No, not yet. But for the Kepler Space Telescope, following up Hubble, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
Multiple telescopes better at life than Skip Bayless.
All the telescopes, all the space telescopes.
That telescope that's in your backyard, better at life than Skip Bayless.
You know which neighbors I'm spying on. All the sketchy ones.
All the sketchy ones. My better at life this week is for the Seahawks' first head coach, Jack Patera. It's been a bit of a rough year for the Seahawks. Coach Knox passed away earlier this year, then owner Paul Allen. And just this last week, Jack Patera, the Seahawks' first head coach from 1976 to 1982, passed away at the age of 85, I believe it was. Seahawks, they put out a message saying, "We are deeply saddened by the loss of Jack Patera and extend our utmost sympathies and condolences to the entire Patera family." As the first head coach in franchise history, Patera coached the Seahawks from our inaugural season in 1976 to 1982, guiding the club through its expansion years. a fair, hard-nosed, and oftentimes funny head coach. Patera recorded the first winning seasons for the Seahawks, going 9-7 in 1978 and 1979, earning NFL Coach of the Year honors in 78. We will remember Coach Patera most for his big heart, sense of humor, and genuine spirit. And got to see Steve Rabel offer some thoughts as well. He posted a video online just talking about those early years of him as a player, a receiver who was coached by Jack Patera, and definitely sounded like a character. And I think you talked to a lot of fans from that era too, and just kind of that exciting brand of football that he brought with all the trick plays and sorts of things, along with quarterback Jim Zorn. So, Coach Patera, better at life than Skip Bayless.
I'm glad that's where you went this week, and also with all that information about Coach Patera. Because, to be honest, other than just knowing he was the first coach of the Seahawks, I couldn't have told you much about him. I mean, mainly because by the time he was winning his Coach of the Year award, I was just popping out of the womb. So, just didn't really have a lot of knowledge about his history with the team, and sounds like a great guy. At this point, if you're a former Seahawks coach, are you starting to get worried? We need eyes on Mike Holmgren, Dennis Erickson, Jim Moore Jr. I'm getting worried about former Seahawks coaches.
Yeah.
This hasn't been a good year.
So for Erickson, just this year, he was named the head coach of the Salt Lake Stallions, part of that Alliance of American Football League that's starting up in 2019. So we're going to see Coach Erickson back on the field for AAF football.
Amazing. Well, you know what? Give the Salt Lake Stallions some credit. That's a solid team name.
The Stallions.
That's good. It's better than Broncos.
Better than Colts.
Oh, for sure.
What other horse names are there that you can pick from?
You could go with the Mares, but that probably wouldn't be all that intimidating. Mustangs.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Mustangs I saw. Stallions or Mustangs? Who you got?
I'd take Mustangs.
I think I go Stallions.
Okay.
As a connotation of handsomeness attached to it as well. But Mustangs has a little badassery.
That's what I'm saying. So, you think of power and badassery with the Mustang.
Oh, man, that's a tough choice.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let us know what you would pick second underneath the ultimate team name, the Seahawks.
And it is the first show of the month, so let's kick things off with our thank yous for our members of the flock at 12 and above.
Getting ready for showtime.
Keith Ketover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Annalisa Mickelson, a.k.a. Mrs. Doug Baldwin, New York, undergrad, University of North Carolina, Greensboro, graduate school, Brooklyn College.
Eric Trench, rooting for the Seahawks out of Renton, Washington, graduated from Eastern Washington University.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
David Bloomquist, Hong Kong Hawk. Ma Sheng Yishu She Ye.
Kevin Stedham, Keene, Texas.
Ella Esparza, Woodway, Texas, Yale University, and Sam Houston State, Eat 'em Up Cats.
Lisa in Seattle.
Sam Sullivan from the wonderful land of Oz, the Forte State University.
Paul from San Diego.
Vincent Parker, Emily Carr, University of Art Design, RN Collective.
Hector Delgadillo from Los Angeles, California.
Samuel Jackson Gelber, the Pasadena City College.
David Van Clee, Camas, Washington, home of the Papermakers.
Jameson Holman from Murray, Utah, representing Mississippi State University. Hail State and go Hawks.
And we also want to thank Ross in Eureka, California, Christina in Manassas, Virginia, James in Linwood, Roe in Federal Way, Summer in Vancouver, Sven in Teltow, Deutschland, Hector in Issaquah, Craig in Camas, Kevin in Snohomish, Keegan in Colorado Springs, Young in Anchorage, Rebecca in Manhattan Beach, California, Mark in Keurig, Western Australia, Tim in Austin, John Paul in Palmer, Alaska, Kathy in Eureka, Garrett in Northern Ontario, Joshua in London, Brandon in Winston-Salem, North North Carolina, Christian in Bergen, Norway, David in Florence, South Carolina, Crystal in Oldsmar, Florida, Jonathan in Ridgefield, Craig in Pasco, Thomas in the Bronx, Glenn in St. Cloud, Florida, Leland in West Jordan, California, Samuel in Puyallup, Jared in Missoula, James in Beau Arts, John in Pierce, Nebraska, Keegan in Colorado Springs, Taylor in Federal Way, Owen in Ashburn, Ireland, James in Waddell, Arizona, Kari in Rochester, Michael in Tucson, Arizona, James in Berlin, Connecticut, Gary in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Brian in Sugar Land, Texas, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, Eric in Seattle, Max in Honolulu, Taylor in South Cle Elum, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Taylor in Puyallup. We've got Brian in Portland, Dean somewhere in the Greater Hawkdom, JC in Billericay, Great Britain, Lisa in Kelowna, BC, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Seth in Tacoma, Scott in Fresno, Eric in Clovis, California, and Patrick in Arlington, Washington. And thanks to those of you coming in through PayPal as well, Associate Producer Dustin Mock, Paul in Minneapolis, John in New York, and Pepper in Greenville, South Carolina.
I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks!
Go Hawks! The Mr. Eds?
The Wheelers?
The Elways?
Is there anybody that's named the Ponies?
We can just pick things that look like horses.
Shannon Sharps?
He was a Bronco.
And he played with other horse face John Elway.
The Sharp Elways. There you go.